Hello, episode 30, SWA
29.
podcast. No, this is 30.
This is 29.
Fuck, it's 29. Okay, hang on, let me just make a mental note of that there. Episode 29. Right, we've got loads of news to get into because wrestling is just ridiculous, isn't it? So yeah, I'm Reese. This is Harry. Say hello, Harry.
Hello, Reece. You alright?
All good, thank you, mate. All good. You all right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. All good.
Ready to... let's talk some news, shall we?
Let's do it.
Right then, so AEW, it's been a pretty huge week and a half for them. So, to the surprise of obviously everyone, Kenny Omega has signed full-time with AEW. I think it's a 4-year deal, and he is he's going to be the same level as Cody and the Bucks, I do believe. Was it vice president or vice executive president or something?
Vice president. There's 4 of them, as far as I'm aware, unless Tony Khan's another vice president.
He's the chairman or president.
Okay,
I can't remember.
so the 4 wrestlers are vice presidents.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, what do you think?
It was dead obvious it was going to happen.
Yep.
Obviously, if you watch Being the Elite, I guess it's good for Kenny, bad for everybody else. New Japan and WWE. Apparently, New Japan didn't really do anything in terms of contract negotiations, whereas WWE basically apparently did an awful lot, and Kenny was very flattered about it but stuck with his friends and probably what he thought was best for him.
That's that's what he said to Meltzer on his interview on the Observer Radio. I mean, depends on how much you take his word for face value. You might be working a little bit still. His actual thing was he said that of the 3 offers he got, the New Japan was third in the rankings. So he's trying to say that he might have been closer to WWE than he was to re-signing with New Japan, which is interesting. If true. I'll be honest with you, I don't doubt for a minute that the biggest money offer was probably from WWE. And you hear a lot, actually, about how he was really complimentary about how Triple H and the office treated him and how they proposed the offer. And I did find it really interesting when he told Meltzer how, and again, you don't know if it's true or not really, but he said how maybe working in WWE and not having to worry so much about your angle and what you're going to say in promos might actually be appealing, having everything written for you and you just go out and wrestle. But he's gone AEW. They had the big ticket thing, and we'll get to their ticket sales in a minute, but yeah, they had their big press conference in Vegas, and Chris Jericho popped out, kind of leading on from obviously Wrestle Kingdom 2 Wrestle Kingdoms ago, and All In when he dressed up as Penta to beat up Kenny. Mm-hmm. So they had a pull apart, and it's going to be Omega Jericho 2 headlining by the looks of it, Double or Nothing. What do you think of that?
If it's anything like their first match, very much looking forward to it. It was a very, very exceptionally good match, as we reviewed previously. So very much looking forward to that.
I did love their Wrestle Kingdom match. And I'll be honest, I mean, Jericho gets a lot of shit, doesn't he, in terms of like the way his face paint and the way he's been in New Japan. And you can have a pop at him for that stuff, but I do think his work has been exceptional.
I think his character in New Japan has been miles better than basically his reappearance at WWE Crown Jewel, whichever one it was, where it was just a rehash and he realised that they were leagues apart. It's his real life bollocks. It's Fozzy and all the other, where he like drunkenly, reveals like who's actually joining AEW. I can't remember who made the joke, but it was like, I can't wait for all these other announcements where Jericho's like, yo, AJ, fucking remember who's the go to wrestling.
Oh, yeah. Oh, didn't he mentioned Brock as well, right?
Yeah, that's it. Because, that's the other... We mentioned this last week, I think, where Brock's obviously going to be entering at least some form of negotiations with AEW to see what they could offer him on the table when his WWE cash flow comes to an end, if it ever comes to an end.
Yeah, even if it's just to use them and the UFC again to bump up his price, which is what he does.
Yep, very successfully. Can't knock Brock.
Can't knock Brock, although we do quite regularly knock Brock.
We knock his character and his booking, which is really a Vince call, and his laziness in certain matches.
So we knock Brock.
We knock Brock. The Brock knock. I'm finding this AEW stuff really quite interesting, and I'll be honest with you, the Mark inside of me is getting a tad excited about it. I think it's very interesting. If it's, as the weeks have gone by, or even days, because it's such a new thing, it sounds very naive. It might be hilariously dated in a few months' time, but it seems a bit more optimistic than fucking TNA when they started off, and it literally was, we're going to be competition. It's like, oh my God, guys, have you fucking seen the state of it? They've got midgets jacking off in trash cans. It's not going to work. Whereas this one, as I've said before, it all sounds great on paper, but it's just if they're going to be a true alternative to WWE and whether or not they are going to hit the casual audience, because that's what's going to make or break them ultimately. It's fantastic that they sold out their recent show in 4 minutes, because that's hardcore wrestling fans. But when that newness wears off eventually, then they're going to have to start, trying to drag in new fans who have never heard of Being the Elite or never even heard of the Young Bucks or recognise them as Generation Me from like 10 years ago.
So, yeah.
So that's Kenny Omega.
I think that's where the TV thing is going to kick in. I think so I think ultimately you're right. I think at the moment things like All In, and we'll get onto the details of Double or Nothing in a moment, but they've sold out All In based on, Ring of Honor stuff and their YouTube
word
show.
Of mouth, basically.
Yeah, well, the YouTube show gets like, I don't know, 300 to 500,000 hits an episode, maybe. I mean, it's a fairly big, considering how niche wrestling. We're always told how niche wrestling is. It's a monster of a thing on YouTube, and I think we've discussed before. It's not really my cup of tea. I don't particularly like it, but if you do watch them, they are quite well put together. They do have a quite charming element to it in terms of the way it's recorded. The film, it's all just done on their phones and stuff. It is all right. I just don't. It's not my cup of tea. But I do think that you have an audience there where hardcore wrestling fans will go and watch a lot of stuff. They'll travel. Just look at the way WrestleMania is. How much of the WrestleMania crowd is an international crowd these days? It's a pretty big amount.
It is now because, wrestling in America is obviously shrinking. It has done since 2001.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, they're in much bigger arenas now, or stadiums they're in now.
Yeah.
They have been since 17. So, you're going to get the international people.
So I think selling out, because of the freshness of it, and I think because of their hardcore following, selling out your 10 to 12,000 arenas might not be too difficult. I mean, we're no experts, obviously, but the way it's going is it looks like they can fill those arenas based on the stars they have and the way they do presenting it at the moment. It's obviously like, say, this time next year, and if they want to run these arenas,
I'd say at the moment there's obviously the newness factor to it. It's when eventually they're going to hit the WWE thing where are they going to have to produce a weekly television show like WWE, and then you get the stagnation, and then you get people that your hardcore fans have seen the same wrestlers before, maybe don't want to go see another show, and that's where the true test is going to be. Whereas the WWE they struggle. I mean, if you look at any SmackDown tapings for the last 3 years where they've got like massive parts of the arena completely taped off because just no fucking people. And that's WWE. That's an established brand name, where this is a brand new commodity. Yes, you've got some recognizable guys like Jericho, but it's the longevity. How long is this going to go for? They've really got to capture that audience like quick. And if they do, like with their television deal, again, it's like if it's a weekly event, are they going to hit burnout? Because that's what's ultimately got the WWE, because it's so oversaturated. Whereas at least AEW, the majority of the guys you really have to seek out, because New Japan, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have a weekly show. Is it like weekly highlights, or is it like UFC? Or
I think they might have like a half an hour or an hour late night during the week at some point. But yeah, they don't really have a TV product as
3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 hour of NXT, 1 hour of 205 Live, 1 hour of main event, 1 hour of NXT UK.
Yeah. I mean,
you can
people always
physically
say,
feel yourself aging just talking about it, the amount of wrestling you're expected to digest per week from WWE alone.
yeah, people always say that it's 5 hours of weekly TV. It's not. If you include the network stuff, you're looking at nearly 10. And if you include pay-per-view, sometimes you might spend 15 hours. If you watch everything, you might spend 15 hours of your week watching WWE.
Which is sickening.
I mean,
it's far too much. But AEW don't have to do that. They don't have to run 2 shows because they've got contract negotiations. But we'll have to wait and see. Everything is very optimistic. And I as I've said last week, the WWE is like, they've needed a massive kick up the arse for fucking decades. The last time that they felt, I think, remotely threatened truly was when TNA went to one out, like, the Monday night, and their first immediate show was Bret Hart's return.
We're going Monday night, brother.
Yeah, I know, and it was like, well, I mean, they nipped it in the bud as quickly as they fucking could. So I'd be very interested to see how WWE reacts, how Vince reacts, because now suddenly he's got something new. It's potentially like WCW all over again, where he's now got a viable competition that's potentially going to make his future acquisitions much more difficult to, get.
Yeah.
And then, of course, AEW itself. It's like, what is the long-term goal with it? Is it going to be like weekly television? Are they going to do the same pay-per-view structure as WWE? And if so, what can they learn from any of the mistakes that the competition does have, which is just oversaturation and stagnation with the current roster? It's very interesting.
There will be weekly TV. That has to happen, I think.
Yeah,
but then
because wrestling has always done good ratings. The reason people shit all over it now is because of what it used to be in the late 90s. But wrestling has always had that kind of hardcore 1.5 million people that always watch it, will always watch it and never give up on it.
Yeah.
But whether or not they're going to fraction off to AEW, because now there is actual something interesting to watch, or if they drag in new fans again, it's like, who knows? Maybe they don't even know.
I mean, if they got themselves like a 2-hour slot a week, and maybe they did, I mean, someone was like alluding to it the other day, but like imagine if they took elements of Being the Elite, which obviously works for them, like in terms of character building. Like if you look at someone like Flip Gordon is really good. He's quite green, but his character was so well built, like on Ring of Honor shows and Being the Elite, which obviously led to the big All In thing where he managed to get booked on the All In show, even though Cody wouldn't book him on all these shows for the months and months previous. Like I think they've got a formula where they can really like build people and build characters and maybe put people over on this Being the Elite show. So imagine if they like did a 2-hour weekly show and it had like an hour's worth of wrestling, say, and then you had an hour's worth of just these kind of, I suppose they're like segments or just these kind of, not skits, but just something where it had that element to it. I could see that being different enough where it might draw people in, but then you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what the network that will eventually take them on wants. They might want 2 hours of wrestling and whatever. It's going to be really, really interesting. And 2 hours of wrestling a week for their roster might be a good fit, because it obviously isn't a huge roster. It's good. It's very strong and very deep in terms of talent, but it's not a huge roster.
Maybe an hour a week to start with, similar to TNA or NXT. Yeah. An hour a week, and then maybe expand upon it if they do it. But then we're not in charge of it, man.
No.
Someone's got to make that big call about what they're going to do with their television program, because that will make or break that company.
Yeah.
They can't do pay-per-views like TNA did for however long it was, 3 years or something, weekly pay-per-views.
Yeah. But yeah, they sold out Double or Nothing. I think the pre-sale sold out in about 20 minutes, and then the general sale sold out in 4 minutes. Yeah, so you got Hangman Page against PAC, which is confirmed now, I believe. SoCal Uncensored against CIMA, and I think the Chinese group will be giving some matches for that. Some wrestlers for that, I mean, which is interesting. Okay. Is it OWE or OVE? Can't remember what they're called.
Not sure.
Kenny against Jericho again, which will be good. And I think we've got Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and Kylie Ray in a triple threat women's match. So it's shaping up nicely, because you've also got the Young Bucks against the Lucha Bros, Pentagon and Phoenix to come. That will be added.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then you don't know, Jimmy Havoc might get himself on there. It's looking good. Was it May 25th? So we'll see how that goes. And I'm very optimistic about this stuff. They've got money. That's one thing about it. They always say, what is it? Bischoff always says that if you open up a new wrestling company and you want it to succeed, you have to prepare to lose upwards of $50 million in your first year.
Mm-hmm.
$50 million to the Khans is like me and you losing a score down the back of the sofa. They're billionaires, and I think that should worry WWE long term, not short term, but long term.
It's a bit big. It's a bit more of a bigger deal than Panda Energy, and that's not to shoot Panda Energy down. It's just this is an established billionaire with investments in multiple different organisations and companies, including Fulham in the UK. So.
Tony Khan's dad is worth about I could be wrong, maybe $6 to $8 billion, I think, and they own the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Fulham Football Club, and I think they own more stuff.
Probably.
I can't remember. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
a lot of fingers, a lot of pies. They must have an idea of they're going to get some investment back on this. They wouldn't just do it willy nilly, unless of course it's like Ted. Ted never thought his wrestling company. It was always going to be his little hobby.
Yeah,
let Eric have 2 hours on Monday night. Fuck Vince.
Like a bisexual.
Thank you, Ted. That was the joke.
No, so exciting. Possibly another wrestling war incoming. We'll see.
God, can you imagine Kevin Nash coming in? You want a war? We got a war. Except it's modern day Kevin Nash.
Look at the adjective. Play.
Back to school.
Yeah. Right, cool. New Japan have also had a very interesting last week and a half. So we had the new beginning in Osaka, where Jay White is the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion, defeating Tanahashi. So Tanahashi didn't defend his title that he won off of Kenny. He's dropped it straight to Jay White. What do we think? Jay White is the new top dog.
Right, if you listen to our previous review of 2 Wrestle Kingdoms ago, where he took on Tanahashi, not a big fan of Jay White at the time. Yep. However, since seeing several of his matches afterwards, including up at Rev Pro in a fucking last-minute booked match against Kyle Fletcher, who wouldn't finish it. Thank you.
Kyle Fletcher, yeah.
Which was very good. Jay White has made immense progress in his career. He's got the fucking look. I'm very happy for it. I know it sounds daft. He's young. He's very, very well defined in terms of a character.
Yeah, I'm liking the Switchblade stuff, yeah. Yeah,
just a complete fucking unhinged psycho. I love the ongoing story where he's basically hijacked Bullet Club with fucking Gedo. It's so good. I'm a massive fan of Tanahashi. Obviously, this is his twilight of his career now. This is where he's now putting people over to for the next generation. It was the right call. Bit strange considering that obviously Omega's just left, so they've gone from one Gaijin champion, then giving it to Tanahashi to transition to another Gaijin champion. But then people were quick to jump on it. The fact that it's like, oh, well, Jay White, the dream storyline obviously is him and Naito, because it's literally a case of the guy who's going to destroy New Japan with Bullet Club versus the guy who has been rejected by New Japan, had to go on excursion because fans didn't like him, and is coming back to save the company. I think if that's the actual plan they're going with, it's so fucking well planned out in advance. It's going to be amazing. But then Gedo could be doing something completely different. So it's like, very interesting. That's the bottom line. It's very fucking interesting.
It is. One thing, if people were surprised in terms of, I think there could be some genuine surprise in terms of it happening now. I think some people have commented that this him being the champion in a year's time, say if it was another year down the line, might be a bit better or make more sense. But he was a young lion in New Japan.
He's been there for fucking ever, isn't he? He's only young as well. He's 20.
He didn't really have any.
Fucking-
I don't believe he actually had any much experience of wrestling before he joined the dojo. I think he was just like, I think maybe he went through Fale. I could be wrong, but he joined the dojo as like green as goose shit, and obviously learnt the basics. He went on excursion to Ring of Honor and was over here quite a lot. I saw a pretty decent match of him and Travis Banks a couple of years ago in York Hall, Bethnal Green, for Rev Pro. He was good then. He had that really great match when he in Ring of Honor with Ospreay. Actually, I can't remember the name. Was it a final battle maybe 2 years ago? I can't remember.
Again, I think it's. I was gonna say, I think it's still a bit sad that my first encounter with him was that Tanahashi match at Wrestle Kingdom, and it was a bit of a fucking. I mean, it had a bad placement on the card, and it was slow. I get that they were trying to build a fucking story because Tanahashi's injury, but that was my first true encounter with White, and it was like such a fucking like letdown, especially on that show. But everything else I've seen about him, similar to my criticism of the Young Bucks, where it's like I don't like the Young Bucks, but every match I watch the Young Bucks, I fucking enjoy the absolute daylights out of it.
Yeah,
and it was that Rev Pro match that I think really turned me around on him, because it was like it was a last minute booked thing, and it was like it told a really good story, and it was so fucking well put together.
Yeah,
the fact that he's got this back catalogue,
that's great.
Yeah, but it's just as you say, he's got this back catalogue of other matches with very big names as well, and he obviously they do see something in him.
I mean, in recent months, he's gone over Okada. He beat Okada at the Dome. So if that's not the indication that he's going to get the strap soon, I don't know what is. His G1 wasn't too bad.
Again, someone raised this, and I'll regurgitate or reiterate it. Every match he won, like he did so like with quite a bit of authority, but the only matches he lost, he underestimated his opponent. One of which was like Suzuki, where he was like, "Oh, I'm going to fuck about with him." And there's that funny bit where he tries to low blow him, and Suzuki just catches him. He's like, "What is this bullshit?"
Oh yeah.
And it's like that's really good storytelling, because it's like Switchblade will beat fucking anyone put in front of him if he puts his mind to it. But if he's arrogant, if he underestimates someone, then he could slip up, and that's such fucking subtle storytelling.
Yeah,
you just don't fucking get it. But he's literally beat Okada, Tanahashi. He's beaten everyone except Naito.
He did beat Okada in the G1 as well, remember?
Didn't he beat Omega as well? Or have I made that up?
And he beat Tanahashi. No, he was in a different...
Of course, he beat Omega for the US title.
Yes, you're right there. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so he's literally beat most of the world champions in the last year.
And now he is the world champion.
And there he is. It makes sense. He's just a young commodity. He's literally fucking come out of the dojo, and he's basically tearing it up.
As if there are a few bits and pieces though, which I don't think. I mean, I'm not criticizing him. I'm just like kind of thinking as a marquee fan. So they've got MSG on WrestleMania weekend, and New Japan had an opportunity to headline a sold-out Madison Square Garden the day, but I think it's the day before. It's the day of NXT, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, Saturday,
the Friday or the Saturday. Yeah. They had the opportunity to headline MSG with like a Tanahashi Okada match, which as you could watch any Tanahashi Okada match, and they are always absolute gold. So
yes, and they're gold standard match.
Yeah, and I don't mean for this to sound like a dig, but at the present moment, the headline match of that MSG show is probably going to be Jay White against the New Japan Cup winner, and that obviously adds quite a lot of intrigue to the New Japan Cup.
Yeah.
And Omega said that had he stayed in New Japan, the booking was going to be he beat Tana at Wrestle Kingdom, and then it was going to be him and Okada at MSG. And I mean imagine that at MSG, and Okada was probably, I think Okada was booked to win. So
would have made sense, yeah.
Which would have made sense, yeah. It just meant that they would have been 2-2-1 in their 4-5 match series, maybe I can't remember, but yeah. So. I think giving him the belt might lose something from that MSG show, but then again, I do rate him, and I think if you had Jay White Okada or Jay White Ibushi or Jay White Naito at that MSG show, then you're going to get a great match. But I do think they might be missing a trick by having a Tanahashi Okada match on that show, but. Who knows what they're going to do. And the New Japan Cup should be pretty interesting now. But on Naito, so you mentioned it a moment ago, but I do think this is the time to pull the trigger on Naito getting the big strap and being the man in New Japan for like. I don't think he should. I don't think anyone will have a run like Okada just had a couple of years, like in the last 18 months.
No, that is a once in a generation fucking.
Yeah, but I do think he's got like an insane year-long championship reign in him, and the fans love him. He's got that kind of, not to be too too much hyperbole, but he's got that kind of Austin aura to him where he's kind of heel, he's kind of face. Yeah. He doesn't give a shit what you think, and he'll spit.
Yeah, he doesn't care what fans think. Yeah. He'll do whatever the fuck he wants, and it just happens that the fans actually really like it.
Fans love that shit, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if this means that. I personally think that the next Wrestle Kingdom, which is possibly a 2-dayer. I mean, they've got 2 days booked at the Dome, so you might have Wrestle Kingdom night 1 and night 2. I think you could book now until then to make Naito this fucking unstoppable, like, IC champion. He's defending all of these championships. And, I mean, in a promo he did recently, he said that he wants to be the first IC and world champion. So imagine just we like to fantasy book, who doesn't? So imagine if you had Naito kind of booked to defend the IC title on night 1 of this Wrestle Kingdom double shot, and then maybe it would double up as a number 1 contender for the IWGP match or something. And so night 1 he defends the IC title, and then night 2 he wins the IWGP world title. And it's like he's basically going to be a made man for the rest of his career. I don't know if they're going to do that. That sounds a bit like too much, maybe, but I could see this now being the road to finally crowning Naito as the top star.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I mean, you could even
I don't think he'd be a dual champion. Because you're always going to get that comparison with Ultimate Warrior.
The one thing they always say about Gedo, though, is that Gedo, very rarely do things get mentioned in New Japan and not come to fruition.
Mm.
So he has said, I want to be a double champion, the first ever double champion. So he's either going to come close or he's going to do it.
I think he'll come close. I think he'll come close. I don't think they'll do 2, but I'd like to be fucking surprised. As you say, it's Gedo. There is fucking plans in place, which is quite funny. Unless, of course, they do a thing where he loses the Intercontinental title because of Switchblade's interference. And Switchblade, like the storyline could be that he literally Switchblade's ruined the fucking, once in a lifetime title for title story,
Yeah.
To put him over his heel. But that's just me. Again, who the fuck knows? But I fully agree. It is nice. I mean, we had the same sentiment at, was it Wrestle Kingdom? Where he thought he should have been, yeah, where it should have been his moment, but it wasn't meant to be. So surely now, I mean, he's now 36. He could have a few more years left, but it's like if you want to pull the trigger, you're going to have to do it sooner rather than later. Because unfortunately, especially with that strong style, if that's infamous with New Japan, you can never tell what's around the corner. So,
yeah, no, I agree. But then you have to think about New Japan. You've always got Okada. Okada's there, and it won't be long until Okada. Yeah, it won't be long until Okada's got the belt again.
We've literally had years of Rainmaker. That's the thing.
But he's great.
We need Rainmaker to have a. I know. Oh, fuck's sake! I still remember that Zack Sabre Jr. match up in person. Like Jesus fucking Christ, he is a world star.
He is. But
I treat Okada as the equivalent of being able to see like Taker, Angle, Flair, like. Just up close, like it's going to be like you may never get that opportunity again to see like a world star. But that's a good segue actually, because they are coming over to England in August. The appropriately named New Japan Royal Quest, or Royal Quest, to be slightly stereotypical there. Not racist. Don't say racist. They're coming over.
they've teased that their top 3 Japanese stars are coming over, which, I mean, if you're asking me, that's Naito, Okada, and Tanahashi. So that sounds good if that's the case. Yeah, they're doing the Copperbox Arena in Stratford, which is luckily close to where I live. Holds about 7,500, I believe, for boxing. It might be maybe a slightly less, slightly more. That's a big arena. That's a lot of people to sell tickets to. So those 2 shows we went to the Manchester show, but the 2 shows they did last year, like with Rev Pro, or Rev Pro kind of run the shows for them. They did, 3,000 at the show we went to in Altrincham, and I think they did 2,000 or 2,500 in Milton Keynes. So they did all right there. So it's
doable.
It's a step up for them, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It'll be. I'm going to go. I don't think you can make it because of
daughter's birthday.
Well, there you go.
Can't do it.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that, and I mean that could be another, Okada over here, big star. I think they could sell out 7,500. I mean that would be a big attendance for them over here. It'd be huge. I think they could do it. Yeah,
as long as tickets are reasonably priced, they've given enough notice. There's no reason why they can't do it, unless, of course, the product is simply not big enough to justify people travelling in. There's always that element.
It's London, isn't it? So you've got most of Europe at your mercy if you put on a good enough show.
That's post-Brexit, though.
Oh, actually, you're right. You're not allowed in here.
New Japan having to get their fucking visas all sorted out because Terry's at the fucking border going, no! Strong, stable Brexit.
Oh, fuck. No one's allowed to watch wrestling. Get out of here.
Ladies and gentlemen, your main event of the evening. Davey Boy Smith Jr. versus...
one of Dynamite Kid's nephews, yeah.
Dynamite Kid Jr.
Right, and just to finish off on New Japan, the infamous... I was going to say flaky, but it's not flaky. But the infamously hard to pin down, unless you're Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi has signed a 2-year contract with New Japan.
Sorry, was that homosexual innuendo?
It was rumor and innuendo.
Little bit of column A, little bit of column B.
Yeah. Well, that's their storyline.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing fucking wrong with that.
That's their storyline, and I'm all for it. But yeah, so Ibushi has signed a 2-year deal, which leads me to think that finally he might get a huge push.
Did you see that heartbreaking line about how do you feel about Kenny Omega leaving? I haven't really spoken to him. I don't really think about him that much.
I'm going to tell you now. This is leading to Ibushi Omega at Wrestle Kingdom next year.
What do you think?
Yep.
You think Omega's really going to go back to New Japan after basically spoiling all their potential storylines for the past next year?
I think this is all part of it. Like I said earlier, I think this is all part of the plan.
There's no confirmed relationship between the two, is there?
I think they've got something going on. But who knows? I mean, it might just be storyline. But I think they're both of that, leaning. So maybe, who knows?
See, part of me thinks they should have a relationship, the two companies. But on the other hand, New Japan have spent the last year wanting to expand. Sorry.
I thought you meant were Ibushi and Omega together in a relationship, not AEW.
No. Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. But what they go up to in their fucking private time is their own business. No, I meant it's New Japan. I thought were New Japan and AEW getting into bed with each other? Because after the last year of New Japan having to expand to America, they now suddenly have potentially other competition other than WWE and Ring of Honor and Impact now in fucking America.
I think no. I think in the long term, ditching Ring of Honor to go with AEW as your main American partner is the way for them to go, but they're not in the short term. That's not what they're doing. So we'll see. Omega, like Jericho, has it in his contract that he can work New Japan, and that there would be it's in their contracts that if they say to the AEW office, I'm working New Japan on 4th of January, in their contracts, AEW can't say, no, you're not, you're working ours. So that's in there. That's in his contract. I think that they've always wanted to do their big match at the Dome. I think their G1 match was obviously amazing last year, and I think that the way he's gone to AEW and the way they're talking about each other, because at the moment Omega kind of talks to him about him on Twitter and things in a kind of, we're still together, we're still friends, we're still close, and Ibushi's reaction is kind of like, oh well, whatever, I haven't spoken to him, I don't think about him. So I've got a feeling that there could be a big, a kind of romanticized feud incoming about betrayal.
Just call it what it is, Reese. We're grown men.
What? A gay love tiff?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, that'd be great. No, it'd be fucking great.
All lovers have tiffs.
Yeah.
In this case, it's Omega and Ibushi.
Well, I mean, is it that Omega's got a documentary on soon, which is centering around how, I think it's around him, but there's an element around his homosexual characteristics in wrestling, and the storyline and relationship between him and Ibushi is, I think it's a key part of the documentary. So, yeah, why the fuck not?
Yeah, no, it's 2019, folks.
But yeah, so Ibushi full time. We might get Ibushi as top champion sooner or later, or G1 winner or something. It's gonna happen.
Maybe. Obviously, with all the fucking major. That's the other thing. I mean, we'll get to that later in the year with G1. Like, where the fuck do they go from here now? But then obviously there's loads of potentials. But it's very interesting. I never thought he'd be pinned down to New Japan. I thought it'd always be like one of those big what ifs. Like if he ever stuck with a company, could he ascend to that world champion level? But it's like he's fucking there for 2 years. He's literally there now.
And he's
not gone to
awesome.
AEW.
And he's fucking great. Yeah.
If your only interaction with him is literally watching him in that Cruiserweight Classic from 3 years ago,
3 or 4 years ago, yeah.
There's so much more about Ibushi. The WWE are probably absolutely fucking not livid, but they probably really would have liked him to have stuck around. But him and Sabre Jr., they did the correct thing and get the fuck out of there. And now they're major stars.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Right then, let's move on to the MISC section of this episode. So we mentioned last week that Undertaker taking all his WWE mentions off his social media. He had some information around booking him, and it seems that Conrad Thompson has booked him for Starrcast. Starrcast 2 in Vegas. So that's the Double or Nothing weekend. Undertaker is doing a very big non-WWE public event. Is this him done with WWE?
Until Saudi Arabia. Until that. I don't know. It's very unusual for it to be so low-key that the Undertaker's not even mentioned around WrestleMania season. I think it's long overdue. That's the other thing as well. Obviously, he's never overexposed himself in terms of like autograph sessions and stuff, or even like out of character fucking interactions. Obviously, you had that thing last year with his preacher, which was just fucking 45 minutes of just fucking filling time.
He's doing some inside the ropes stuff in England soon, like the Q&A, like the Q&A and stuff like that. Yeah.
His last, I was going to say that all the news publications talking about how Starrcast II is the Undertaker's first non-WWE appearance, and it's like motherfucker's going to Liverpool at the end of April, and it's been announced for at least 2 months.
Yeah, he's charging quite a lot of money to do stuff as well.
150 quid for a fucking autograph.
The highest price for his meet and greet options was 350 quid.
That's what the fuck does he do for that?
Don't know. I think a ticket to the Q&A was something like 60, 70 maybe.
I'd love to see a Q&A with Undertaker for like several hours, but I'm not paying that fucking much. I think this is another thing with people that pay for wrestling autographs. If you've got that disposable income to like splooge, then by all fucking means, do so. But I just don't get the fucking appeal of spending that much money on something that takes 35 seconds to put together. Probably less than that, 3 seconds, and a handshake.
I guess it depends. If you've got certain merch that you want to guarantee to get signed, then maybe that's the way you do it. And some meet and greets are quite good in terms of the actual meeting and greeting part. So you get something signed, but actually sometimes you stand around and you talk to someone for a good couple of minutes, and you can get some really good interactions. I'll tell you what, I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again because I'll mention it anytime I get a chance to. But I've stood and spoke to like Matt Riddle for like fucking 5-10 minutes at a time, like buying a t-shirt off him or just seeing him in the corridors of York Hall. And the guy will always stand there and talk to you and just like interact with you and fucking tell you information. Like he told me the whole, it's not something I was privy to, but he would tell anyone who asked. He stood there and told me the whole reason why he didn't go to New Japan and the whole reason why Jeff Cobb got a call and he didn't, and what he wanted to do, and what he met them, and I did this, I did that, I thought I was in, and then the whole thing about me smoking weed. He's so open, and that was just me bumping into him in a corridor. And he signed my t-shirt, and then I bought a t-shirt off him as well. Not realising who he was. It's like, oh man, why is this random guy talking to me about wrestling and getting weed in Japan? They're like, oh fuck, he's on the show. Oh fuck, I just stared longingly into his eyes and listened to whatever he had to say. But yeah,
he's a beautiful man.
It's like last night at the Rev Pro show. Walked in and El Phantasmo was standing there, and I was like, Meltzer says you're going to Japan, and he was like, oh. I haven't signed anything. No one's told me nothing. And I was like, come on. And he was like,
exclusively on Smarks About Attitude, El Phantasmo rebukes Dave Meltzer.
I was like, best of the Super Juniors. He went, I haven't signed anything. No one's told me nothing. I went, Meltzer said it. And he went, oh, well, maybe Meltzer knows more than me. And I was like, ooh. I was like, maybe you're going to Japan? He was like, oh, maybe.
You need a big dirty recorder underneath his chin going like, are you just talking to this for my wrestling podcast, please?
Oh, maybe next time, yeah.
We're literally 100th away of getting that Patreon money.
Yeah. Oh, fuck off. Yeah, so Undertaker, Starrcast, and yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. Well, I suppose there'll be more developments on that as we get closer to it.
I'm still shocked he's not in Hall of Fame.
Well, I think that's got to happen.
It must be this year. Fuck's sake, it has to be, surely.
Yeah, it would explain him doing all these other shows, I guess, if he's actually retired.
Yeah, it must be. But it's just so low-key. Like, he should have retired against Roman. There's no fucking sugarcoating it.
Agreed. Yeah.
That year following where it's like he hit the fucking 2.5 minute absolute fucking laugh right with Cena, and then the fucking casket match with Rusev, which was all right, and then the Australian and Saudi shows. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What a weird end to Undertaker's career, if that's true.
Yeah. He made a few bucks, though, with those Saudi shows. Yeah. And the Australia show.
I wonder if he'd go back.
Well, I guess, maybe.
Well, if he's charging $60,000 for a fucking, if that's the reputed fee for Starrcast II, surely he's got to get a lot more than that to actually wrestle in a foreign country.
Oh, he would have got millions. Him and Michael's probably got like $2 million each to do those Saudi shows. That's what I mean. It's ridiculous money. Yeah, I just mentioned the Rev Pro show last night. That was Will Ospreay against PAC in somewhat of a dream match, I think you might agree. High stakes. Show was all right overall. It was not bad. It was kind of a one match show. They sold out York Hall, which is like what 1,200 tickets in like 25 minutes, based on that one match, and you could kind of feel that in the rest of the card. It was still a good show. They're always good shows. Ospreay and PAC went a 30-minute time limit draw.
Oh, fuck, a draw, really?
Well,
got that intrigue. Guys, you got to come back to Rev Pro for the rematch.
There is that. There is also the who jobs when it's a New Japan title holder against the Dragon Gate the Dragon Gate World title holder. No, you have to ask these questions. Who jobs?
And
Ospreay isn't. Ospreay isn't scared of jobbing, and it's like, okay,
no, he's not. That's the thing. It's so funny.
So is that, I'm not saying there is politics, who the hell knows, but is there a political thing to it, or is it it's 30-minute time limit draw, so in a couple months time at York Hall, or maybe a bigger, this is the thing, you could build this to a bigger show. It's a 60-minute a 60-minute match, and then maybe it goes as far as a 2 out of 3 falls match at some point. That's what I'd like to see. But yeah, it was great. They worked really well together. There was a few bits in the match that were a bit annoying. There was a bit of interference from Chris Brooks and Jonathan Gresham, CCK, because there's an ongoing feud between Ospreay and CCK in Rev Pro. And at one point, Ospreay and PAC did work together to vanquish CCK. So they, you could even argue that down the line they might tag together in Rev Pro. Who knows? But it was great.
Recapturing that fucking rockin' Cena,
Yeah.
I'll meet you next year at WrestleMania. Survivor Series is doing shit in the buy rate. Get them teaming up. Makes no sense. Fuck it. Do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. The match was really good, really high. I mean, this PAC and Ospreay, it's going to be great. Some really cool moments. Like Ospreay did a thing on Twitter or Instagram before saying how he learnt so much from the people he's wrestled in Rev Pro and other places. And he mentioned Ricochet, and he did the Benadryller during the match. He mentioned AJ Styles, and he did the forearm, and he did a Styles Clash as well. He mentioned Skull, and he did the finger break spot. And there was one more. Oh, he mentioned Matt Sydal, and he did a shooting star press. So it was really well put together match in terms of story. I'm obviously hugely into seeing PAC Ospreay 2 wherever they do it. If this is an opportunity for Rev Pro to move to a bigger venue and do a big, massive match again with those two, all for it. PAC did have a screwy finish with Zack Sabre Jr. as well, so you've always got the opportunity to turn this into like a freeway feud for maybe Zack Saber's belt. Who knows? But yeah, it was great. It was great to see last night, and it was awesome. That match, the show was fine, but yeah. Yeah. Cool. So, well, we'll finish this episode. It's the Elimination Chamber tomorrow. I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to run down the card, and I want you to make your predictions. I'll make my predictions. Okay. You make your predictions. Ready?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So the Elimination Chamber match for the inaugural Women's Tag Team Championship: Nia Jackson, Tamina vs the Riot Squad, which is Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, the Iconics, Bayley and Sasha Banks, and Naomi and Carmella. Who wins?
Oh, fuck. Right, WWE have done inaugural champions recently as faces.
Right.
Obviously, SmackDown Championship. I'm going to go polar opposite. I'm going to say Iconics. And the match is going to be about... And I'm going to say the match is going to be about 45 minutes long, and it's going to be fucking... That 20 minutes should have been shaved off. Because that's what Alvarez has been saying. So I'm actually scared.
So I was going to go Iconics as well. So, right.
Oh, really? One. Okay.
Yep. And I agree. I think they'd be good to start off with. Miz and Shane McMahon vs the Usos. Is that still on?
Yeah, of course it is.
Jimmy got arrested, no?
Yeah, but he got let. He's out. He's all right.
Who you got?
I say Usos.
You're saying
and
Usos.
That leads to Miz versus Shane at WrestleMania.
I'm going to say Miz and Shane, but I think we'll get their issues blowing up on SmackDown and not on this pay-per-view.
That makes sense.
You
could start it here.
Yeah, we'll see. But I reckon I'll go against you for that one. Okay. So this is a pre-show. Buddy Murphy vs Tozawa.
Murphy.
For the Cruiserweight title, you're going Murphy. I'm going to go Murphy as well. Whatever. Ronda vs Ruby Riott for the women's tag title, Raw Women's Tag title.
Throw me off it. I reckon Rousey, but I would not be surprised to see Becky make an appearance.
I'm going to agree with you on that as well.
You could hypothetically do the absolute bullshit thing and have Ruby win on behalf of fucking interference on Becky and have Ronda win the championship back in time for WrestleMania.
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen. I know. But you could make Ruby Riott a big deal in the process just by proxy.
Lashley vs Balor. Oh, hang on. Sorry. It's Lashley and Rush vs Balor. A handicap match for the IC title.
That would be a bit weird with handicap matches. I'm going to say Lashley and Rush.
You're going to say Lashley.
Bullshit way of doing it.
I'm going to say...
Because you got to remember that fucking Shield versus Punk match where it was so obvious that, why should Punk win this fucking 3-on-1 handicap match? It makes no sense.
I'm going to go Finn just for the fun of having something different to what you said.
Okay. It's very boring, this, sorry.
Strowman vs Corbin, no DQ match.
Oh, fucking hell. Corbin with bollocks.
Corbin with bollocks. Okay, I'm going to go with Braun with no bollocks. And
so you think Corbin's going to go over clean over Strowman?
No, I think Braun's going to win clean.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Corbin going over.
Maybe I did. We'll refresh that. I'm going with
You're going Braun clean. You're going Braun clean. I'm going Corbin dirty.
I'll go Braun by destruction. I'm assuming this is going to be the main event. But Bryan against Styles, against Jeff Hardy, against Randy Orton, against Samoa Joe, against Kofi Kingston, Elimination Chamber, WWE Championship. Who you got?
Bryan.
Yeah, me too.
Hart wants Kingston. Just for it's going to piss a load of people off, and it's going to make a lot of people very happy and then pissed off when he gets booked into Oblivion.
True. Okay, so there's our rundown of the Chamber. There's our predictions.
I can't wait to be Ron for that main event, and it'll be Orton randomly wins, and everyone's like, for fuck's sake, it's just because he threatened to go to AEW backstage.
Don't even fucking dare.
Usos win because they're scared. A Revival win the tag titles because they're scared. Orton wins because they're scared. It's just... Hey, Vince, I've been thinking about going to AEW, and it's like, okay, fuck. Okay, guys, main event is Brock Lesnar versus Akira Tozawa for the Universal title. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right, so that's what we'll do. I'll tell you what, next week's episode, when we run down the show, when we run through the show, if it's shit, we'll run it down, sure. But we get to laugh at our naiveness. This is where we show ourselves up. Maybe. I mean, we've got a few where we share our predictions, but, we'll see who wins.
That means we're both wrong. That means you really can't listen to us on this podcast.
But prediction winner gets a can of Coke. There you go.
Ah,
yeah. Right. That's the show.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week with the Chamber stuff, and obviously anything that comes out of AEW or New Japan in next week or so. And
anything related to wrestling.
Anything related
Obviously,
to
it's been a busy week where Jimmy Uso getting arrested didn't even make the fucking news segment apart from that one off the cuff mention. Yeah. I loathe to mention anything that TMZ break as an exclusive, but there you go. TMZ! Wrestler gets arrested and wife throws a shit fit. TMZ! Cunts. Rooting for your garbage because we have no lives. TMZ! Yeah, fuckers. Yeah, there you go. Thanks for listening. You can catch us on soundcloud.com/smartsforAttitude, iTunes, all the Podbean and all those other apps that those are on. I think we're on Last FM as well. I did see that the other day. Fuck what? YouTube.com/smarts. Actually, no, it won't be that. Just search for Smarts for Attitude. All of them are on there. YouTube.com/AEW. Yeah. And then if you want to email smartsattitude@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week, and toodaloo. See you guys.